Yes, that was a middle school choir. Right? Right? Which school are they from, Mr. Ham? Shavela, baby. So yes, that was a middle school choir. So that just tells you, like, what does high school have to offer, right? And what are we doing in our elementary and middle schools to have middle schoolers perform like that? Okay, so congratulations. We're going to hear from them one more time before they take off. All right, but today is a special event. Every December is a reorganization of the board. So the board president and clerk serve for a term, well, 1-year term, and then we reorganize the board. In our board bylaw, a president may serve for up to 2 consecutive years. And that's one of our board bylaws. So we'll be doing that tonight shortly. But before we do, we need to swear in or administer the oath of office for 3 new elected officials who are seated there today. We're going to go in alphabetical order. It is a requirement that they have to be sworn in by an an educational official. So some of the folks have already received the official administration, but we have some ceremonial things done tonight. So we're going to first call down Miss Eleanor Briggs, who will have her sister administer the oath of office.
So she can take my place at the next meeting. Stop. So I, Eleanor Briggs, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and
that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Next, Miss Yvonne Munoz. And I believe a family member is also administering that oath. Yes.
Okay, oath of office. I, Yvonne Munoz,
I, Yvonne Munoz,
do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I bear true faith and allegiance
and that I bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations, my daughter.
And last but of course not least, Miss Christine Schmidt. I, Christine Schmidt, do solemnly swear
I, Christine Schmidt, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true and faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So thank you for everyone who's been able to be here tonight and witness this and have our new trustees sworn in. It is a very important duty, as you all understand, of a school board, and it doesn't really matter the size of the school board. I've worked in very larger districts than Murrieta and smaller ones, and they are all just as important. And these are important decisions these people will make. We know we've been through a lot in our community with all the political turmoil of COVID and all the things that have gone on around it. This is a very difficult job. Ask those who have been on the board before or have thought about serving on the board. So let's use grace and civility in our comments and as we go forward for the best we can possibly do for our children and our community. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I, Nancy Young, hereby call the Board of Education Annual Organizational Meeting to order at 5:08 p.m. We have a quorum present with all board members in attendance. I would like to welcome the community members in attendance this evening. As a reminder, governing board meetings are a business meeting of the board, held in public, and although public participation is encouraged, it is not the public's meeting. It is the duty of the board president and/or clerk of the board to maintain an orderly, respectful, and peaceful meeting where all perspectives, voices, and opinions are welcome. Please refrain from speaking out while another person has the floor. At the appropriate time on the agenda, individuals wishing to provide public comment will be called upon one at a time to do so in accordance with Board Bylaw 9323. The board cannot and will not respond to non-agendized items, but a staff member will reach out to you on matters that may need to be reviewed as appropriate. So I would like to call on Murrieta Canyon Academy student representative Gavin Larson to lead us in the pledge. So I'm calling for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay. Student preferential vote?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, so now Dr. Andrus will do a special recognition.
Before we do, we're going to have another performance, and then we'll conduct that recognition.
adoremus. Venite adoremus. Venite adoremus. Dominum. Oh, come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Oh, come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold him, born the King of angels. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Jack Frost nipping at your nose. Yuletide carols being sung by a choir. And elders dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows a turkey and some mistletoe help to make the season bright. Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow, laughing hard to sleep tonight. Know that Santa's on his way. He's on his horse and twice and he's on his sleigh. And every mother's child is gonna spy to see if reindeers really know how to fly. And so I'm offering this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you very much. We're going to have, you can stay right here. You stay right here. So let me read a little something to you about Miss Michelle Naiseth, our choir instructor from Shavela. All right? Okay, we want to recognize Miss Michelle Naismith for her incredible work at saving and revitalizing the Chavela Middle School Choir program. When we lost our previous choir teacher, Miss Naismith, who is a resident substitute, stepped in and kept the program going with remarkable dedication. Today, more than 35 students show up after school to rehearse, with 75 signed up. Despite challenges and inconsistent rehearsal spaces and after-school conflicts, Ms. Nathan and her students persevered. Under her leadership, the choir has already performed at several events, including the Field of Honor Candlelight event, Murrieta Mesa High School Showcase, and their own holiday concert and a school board meeting. Ms. Nathis has created a space where students can learn, grow, and sing with joy. Her efforts have been invaluable, and we look forward to seeing the program continue to thrive. Thank you for saving the program.
So sweet.
And we have one more recognition. Anna Egan, is she still here? Did she take off? Okay, bring her back in. All right, they're like cheering for you in the hallway already. Who's this one who's jumping up and down? Okay. Under Anna Egan's leadership, did I say Egan or Egan? Egan. Under Anna Egan's leadership, the drama program at Chavela has grown to include 3 thriving classes serving 138 students, with more on a waiting list. With this high demand, there's even potential to add a 4th class next year, which is a testament to the enthusiasm which she inspires. In the past 2 years, Miss Egan and her Advanced Theater 2 students have brought forward Annie Jr. and Bye Bye Birdie Jr. to life, engaging Theater 1 students in an ensemble scenes and the growing program success. This year, Chavela will perform Roger and Hammerstein's Cinderella Youth Edition, nice, featuring more Theater 1 students than ever before, and even elementary students from our Murrieta schools, which is a wonderful opportunity for our young performers to enjoy the experience of theater. Ms. Egan has also built a strong partnership with Mr. Ryan's theater program at Mesa High School, ensuring a smooth transition from Chavela students into high school drama. More importantly, she instills public speaking, teamwork, confidence in her students, preparing them for their future. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ms. Young, if you'd like to continue on.
Item B1, organization of the board, the election of board president. Do I have a nomination for the office of president of the board?
I would like to nominate Nancy Young for consideration.
I second.
Okay, hold on just a second. We have a nomination.
Yes, yes, yes.
So there's a nomination for Nancy Young, and there was a nomination and a second for Mr. Pardue, correct?
Yes.
Yes, you can. You have the opportunity to second your own nomination. So there's 2 nominations, so we need to take care of one at a time. Okay, so I would suggest we take care of the first one that was made, and then the second one that was made. All right? So Ms. Young, you would, unless there's any other comments in the process, but then you can call for a vote.
I have some comments. So as a newly elected board member, I can sit here and acknowledge the fact that I have a lot to learn about the administration of the school district, and that Nick Pardue and Nancy Young are the most senior trustees on this board. Both of them have 2 years at a minimum of experience in this district. Both of them, being educators in this community, have years of experience within the educational system that I do not have. that my newly elected colleagues and Ms. Briggs and Ms. Schmidt do not have. I think it is only right and just that with the next two decisions that this board makes, that we do it in deference and out of respect to the experience of Mr. Pardue and Mrs. Young. It is only right and appropriate that the two officer positions that we are going to be making today are held by those two individuals.
So just to help the process, are there any other comments by the board? So Ms. Young, I recommend you call for a vote.
Okay, so I'll call for the vote.
This is the first motion, which is Nancy Young as president.
So should I do a person by person?
Just a moment, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't have my mic on. Okay, because I don't have this on here. Okay,
I do recommend person by person.
okay. Okay, Mrs. Briggs.
So I'm voting for Nancy Young.
So let me restate this then. A yes vote in this motion would be for Nancy Young. A no vote would not be for Nancy Young. So a yes vote would be for Nancy Young right now.
No.
Mrs. Munoz.
Yes.
Mr. Pardue.
No.
Mrs. Schmidt.
No.
And I'm a yes. So the motion fails.
So now it would be appropriate to respond to the second motion and any comments.
Okay, shall we call for the vote? Okay, Mrs. Briggs. Mrs. Munoz.
No.
Mr. Pardue.
Yes.
Mrs. Schmidt.
Yes.
And I'm a no. The motion carries.
At this time in the agenda, we will switch seats as Mr. Pardue is now the board's president. Always a little shuffle every December.
All right. Thank you very much for the applause. I appreciate it. Do I have a nomination for the office of clerk of the board?
I would like to nominate Nancy Young.
I'll second it.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any comments?
Can I make my
No, because we'll need to vote. So I will make a comment on this is CSBA, we did make an attempt to get our governing team together, and on no occasion did Ms. Young attend. And for me, that is a significant problem. The willingness or the lack of willingness to work together as a team is the reason why I am against this particular vote. Could we? So I call for a motion.
No, there is a motion
No, we have a
already.
motion. I don't see a thing here. So let's take a vote.
Are we going to have discussion?
Is there more discussion?
If there's more
Any other
comments.
Yeah, I would like to make a comment. We did have attendance at the CSBA conference, and to my knowledge, there actually was a conversation between Mr. Pardue and Nancy Young, maybe not in the forum that he would have liked, but that did occur. So let's be honest, let's be transparent. The community deserves that. And the same thing I said before, out of respect and deference to Mr. Pardue and Ms. Young, they have the most experience in this governing body, and we should be making decisions in the best interest of the community, which we would be putting people in positions that are qualified to undertake the responsibilities thereof.
And I will confirm that Mr. Pardue and I did meet at CSBA.
I would just like to add that everyone on the board is qualified to serve as a clerk or as a president. There's no requirement to be here for 2 years, just for the record. Additionally, we had 2 opportunities as a governing body, as a governing team, I think is the words that they used, as we watched district after district meet as a team to be able to meet each other and have cordial relationships to get to know each other, and that did not happen. And I think that was a great disappointment to me. We tried on 2 different occasions and it did not happen.
Yeah,
So
I think we have a great opportunity here as a new board. And I really thought, Mr. Pardue, that you and I and Eleanor, because we also met, were aligned in the thought that we should come in this with good faith and that we should come forward in the best interests of the community and not relegate ourselves to political corners or ideologies, but instead work to the best interest of the community. And I strongly affirm again that doing that would mean having you and Mrs. Young in these positions. I think if the first decisions that this board make are made by relegation to ideological corners, that it's going to set a sad tone and give a poor example to the community of what they have ahead of them the next 2 days. I ask all of my colleagues on the board to rise to the occasion and demonstrate leadership.
I think we can take it to a vote. Mrs. Briggs,
No.
Mrs. Munoz,
Yes.
Mr. Pardue is a no, Mrs. Schmidt,
No.
and Ms. Young.
Yes.
The vote is 3-2 against. The motion fails. Do I have a nomination for the office, another nomination for the office of clerk of the board? I would like to nominate Mrs. Briggs for that position. Do I have a second?
I second.
Any comments? No comments. We can take this to a vote. Ms. Young,
No.
Mrs. Schmidt,
Yes.
Mr. Pardue is a yes, Mrs. Munoz,
No.
and Mrs. Briggs.
Yes.
Motion carries. The new clerk of the board is Mrs. Briggs. Our next item is B3, selection of representative to vote at the annual county committee on school district organization election. Do I have a nomination for the representative to the county committee on the school district organization?
I nominate Yvonne. Oh, sorry.
I second. Any comment? We can go to a vote. Dr. Andrews, how many, sorry, how many representatives do we need? Just one?
Just one.
Oh, just one. Okay. And for the vote,
Yes.
Mrs. Munoz,
Yes.
Mr. Pardue, yes. Mrs. Schmidt,
Yes.
Ms. Young.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Oh,
Student preferential vote.
student vote.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries. B4, appointment of district superintendent to serve as secretary to the board. I call for a motion to appoint Dr. Ward Andrews to serve as secretary to the board.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any comment? All right, to the vote. Mrs. Briggs,
Yes.
Mrs. Munoz,
Yes.
Mr. Pardue is a yes. Mrs. Schmidt,
Yes.
Ms. Young.
Yes.
Student preferential vote.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. B5, approval of Board of Education regular meeting dates for the 2025 calendar year. I call for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Young and a second by Mrs. Munoz. Any comment? I actually do have a comment. Are we attempting to move these meetings to Tuesday during next year? Is that including the attempt to change dates for next school year?
Yes, we looked at the remaining part of this school year will stay on Thursdays. It was quite a bit of, because we schedule out so far in advance, booking this room and meetings was difficult to move so many things, so it's through Thursday of this academic year. But starting in the summer months or August, we would move to Tuesdays.
I do know that there's Thursdays tend to be problematic, so that was one of the reasons why we were moving the dates. So, all right. Did we already vote? We did not vote.
You just have a motion.
We have a motion and a second. And vote, Mrs. Briggs,
Yes.
Mrs. Munoz,
Yes.
Mr. Pardue is a yes, Mrs. Schmidt,
Yes.
Ms. Young.
Yes.
Student preferential vote.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. B6, approval of certification of signatures form 3350T. Call for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any comment? No comment. We go to the vote. Mrs. Briggs,
Yes.
Mrs. Munoz,
Yes.
Mr. Pardue is a yes, Mrs. Schmidt,
Yes.
Ms. Young.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. So student preferential vote.
Yes.
Excellent.
So make sure you sign the form before you leave today. That's the form you just voted on.
Form.
It's okay, carry on.
Okay.
All right. To C, communications. C1, student representative reports. I call on the following students one at a time. And we have Gavin Larson, up first from Murrieta Canyon Academy. Student is our student representative. Gavin, all yours.
Gavin, could you push the button on the top of the microphone? Oh, little gray button. Got it.
Okay, is that better? Hello, everybody. So I actually had to miss the last meeting because I was very sick. But yeah, so this is the December report so far. You know, we got finals sadly, but not too much happening this month. But here we go. So in guidance, one of the cool things that we've done is we actually decorated our doors, our guidance class doors. So the second one to the left was leadership. I will tell you right now, my class got absolutely robbed at first place. It was a decorating contest. So the first to the left, it was Miss Frisch's class. They got first place, which is so like basic Polar Express, and ours. That's literally Chevy Chase's Christmas Vacation, but instead of Chevy Chase, it's our principal, Mr. Bean. I don't know how we didn't win, but that's beyond the point. You know, it was very fun to do. A lot of other, like they weren't good, but we should have won. Okay. But yeah, it was a very fun activity to do all together. A lot of us in leadership came together to put this idea. It was a very good idea, and yeah, it was just a very fun activity to do as a class. But okay, thank you. For academics, so 8th period is a little different from all the other schools. 8th period is a credit recovery class for the students to catch up on credits that they need to do for graduation. So this is my friend Landon right here. He passed the class and he got some candy, which who doesn't love candy? But yeah, we every 6 week grading period, we offer an early out if you finish the class. Credit recovery, I've obviously had to attend credit recovery. I finished a bunch of classes, and it's very grateful for the opportunity to catch up in classes and get out early, obviously, and get some candy. But so we have finals. We got finals starting tomorrow. I got first and seventh period for, I got history and math. Those are not two good finals that you want to have on the same day. So that's the beginning tomorrow. So I usually, it's just some are just tests and some are projects. I prefer the projects because I don't want to be taking a test in class, but that's just me. But yeah, I mean, the finals, obviously not everybody looks forward to it, but you got to do what you got to do. But that's tomorrow and then the rest of the whole week, and then we're out, finally. And guidance and leadership. So this week we had some dress-up days for the last week of school. So yesterday was Monday, and we had a winter wonderland type dress-up days, like pretty much dress like you're in the East Coast where it's all snowing. Does not snow here in California, sadly. Like, that would be amazing if we had snow days. Maybe not for you guys, because you guys could get in trouble for people like throwing snowballs at each other. But for us as students, it'd be fun. Tuesday, which was today, we had like a Santa versus Grinch. So pretty much just a red or green, red versus green. And then tomorrow, we're wearing ugly sweaters. Thursday, holiday PJs, which is pretty much every day nowadays. Everybody's just wearing pajamas to school. Friday is holiday socks and holiday hats. And then leadership, we had a Thanksgiving potluck in November, and then we also had a Christmas potluck here in December. Thanksgiving potluck was very good. Like, people actually brought food. Christmas, however, was the opposite. Like, nobody brought any food for our potluck. Like, the main course was mac and cheese that I brought, and like rolls, and like other things were like chocolate covered strawberries and brownies, which is not a good combination at all to have like mac and cheese rolls and brownies and a bunch of other sweets. But I'm not complaining because I had a bunch of brownies myself. I think I had like 4. But Thanksgiving one was amazing. People brought, it was again mac and cheese. Like, I also brought yams. We had the rolls were amazing. We had some pie too with some turkey. So the potlucks are obviously a good thing to look forward to, obviously. And today, actually, in leadership, we had a cookie exchange and a white elephant. I didn't bring cookies. I didn't have any ingredients, so I had to make brownies. So I brought brownies to a cookie exchange thing. But yeah, I mean, leadership is a great thing. Obviously, looking forward to the potlucks because those are amazing, obviously, because you get a whole class just to eat food. And coming up, which is Thursday, we have a holiday movie night after school. We get out early because it's minimum day, and then we have to come back to school to watch a movie. We're watching The Nightmare Before Christmas. That's a great Christmas movie. I think it's a Christmas movie. Is it even considered a Christmas movie? It was probably more Halloween, but it's still a great movie. Activities. So we have a Bring Change to Mind club. They hosted what they call a Calm Era, which is a lot of our students for guidance. We went out to the quad area. We painted a bunch of flower pots, and we played a bunch of games too, which was very fun. Activities to bond with all the other students and to create like a new relationship with students that you never really talked to during or even outside of school. So it was very fun to come together as a whole school to play games. A lot of kids are not good at cornhole, I'll tell you that. Especially Mr. Peterson. Sorry if you're hearing this. You're not good at all. But so this was an amazing thing. I'm not one of an artist myself, so my pot looked horrible, but I did do good in a bunch of different games. So our Phoenix Nest, as I stated, I think it was the first board meeting. We have our 2 peer counselors who were just trained to help students, talk to students through their problems if they're not really comfortable talking to like a regular teacher or whatever, like in the office. Because, it's very hard to just go and talk to an adult about what you're feeling. Obviously, if you have a peer, it's way easier to talk to them because they know how you're feeling and what you've been through because they're your age. And Omar and Alita are they're very, very kind people, I'll tell you that. They always have a smile on their face, so it's good. I think they're the most two qualified people on the campus to be the peer counselors. And we also had a food drive in November where we, every guidance class collected canned foods and other types of food for the homeless, and we all donated those canned foods. So, guidance is a very productive class that we get a lot done and provide, obviously, outside of school, just like we do here for the families in need. So that was all. Thank you guys for the amazing semester. Looking forward to winter break.
Thank you.
Next, we have Isabella Acosta from Vista Murrieta High School.
Hello, I hope you're all doing well. I'm extremely honored to represent Vista, so without further ado, I'm going to get started. Okay, so to start, we had our Dancing with the Broncos where our juniors and seniors could pick a partner to dance, and it was really, really cool. It was nice to see everyone performing, and I think it was overall just a really fun event we had on campus. We had our winter sports rally where we could introduce all our winter sports athletes, and it was really, really cool again. It was great to introduce them into their seasons. We had our We Give Thanks luncheon where our student leaders could select a staff member or a teacher that they wanted to have lunch with and just spend time to show how grateful they are for their commitment to our students. We had a holiday tree contest. It was really cool. I liked seeing all the different clubs and how they wanted to represent themselves through holiday spirit. And I don't think I saw any two trees that were alike. It was really cool, and I enjoyed seeing all the creative sides of the clubs and groups on campus. We had the winter band concert. I actually attended this. It was really, 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 really festive. There was a fake Santa there. I mean, there was a Santa there, and and you got to take photos with them. I took a photo with Santa, and that was fun. I enjoyed listening to all of the different songs they played, and it was a great way to get ready for Christmas. We had our Pause on Stress on Friday, which is where we have dogs come on campus for the students, and you can pet them. They were really soft, and it was a great way to just relieve any stress that students had before finals this week. For academics, we had a bronchotorial on Saturday, December 7th, where there were over 300 students in attendance. This was by the National Honor Society and Link Crew students. There were these students were able to support 12 teachers and over 300 students. And then for our law enforcement pathway, there was a hands-on experience working on a mock crime scene investigation with a car. That was really, really cool. There was a lot of different elements to it, and you could find evidence. It was great to get the hands-on experience. And then for our biomed class, they were able to participate in doing readings of respiration and heart rate before, during, and after climbing a short flight of stairs. Students collected data, graphed, and analyzed their results. For our CTE photography class, they had a cinematic lighting workshop in collaboration with the prestigious California Museum of Photography. For our winter athletes, both our girls and boys soccer groups they have a game against Yucaipa High School. And then for boys wrestling, they participated in the Rattler Classic, which was hosted by Rancho Mirage High School. They placed 4th overall. And then for our girls wrestling, they have a game against Paloma Valley Wildcats on Thursday. In cross country, pictured there is one of our athletes. Her name is Erica Kirk. She placed 15th in the California State Cross Country Championships. She also went on to place 8th at the West Regionals, and then she went on to participate in the Foot Locker Cross Country Nationals, and she scored 34th place overall. For our boys basketball, varsity won the Vista Murrieta Battle for the Belt tournament, and our JV captured the tournament title against Great Oak at Temescal Canyon's tournament. And also pictured there, that is Lauren Sanford, who was called Inland Boys Athlete of the Week. On the ranch, we had our canned food drive. Our goal this year was about 3,000 items, which we successfully met. We actually received 4,950 items, all of which went to the community food pantry in Murrieta. And we actually almost doubled last year's total number of items brought in. We had our Veterans Day service event, our installation. Last month, we had a service project where we could make various things for veterans and people who are currently serving in the military. We were able to install that art in the middle of our quad in the grass area, and it was really beautiful to look at. We had the community holiday tree decoration, which is pictured right there. Our student leaders were able to decorate trees in order to spread some holiday spirit in the community. We also packed veteran care packages, which contained any toiletries that veterans might find of use. And then for our student support, the student support team is rolling out a new pattern of student-teacher conflict mediation that minimizes class time missed by the students and focuses on restorative practices. At the Student Free Professional Development Day, the MTSS team presented a training on restorative practices to be used by teachers. The training was well attended and received. Teachers shared concrete strategies and approaches they can easily include in their day-to-day practice. And that is all I have for today. Thank you for your time and for allowing me to share the happenings at Vista Murrieta.
Next, we have Megan Lewis from Murrieta Valley High School.
Good afternoon, all. You may be wondering, where's my MV stuff? Well, as Gavin said, finals are coming up pretty rapidly. So I was cramming down studying for the past 2 hours I got out of school today. As we like to call an ASB right now during winter, it is kind of like the dead season. There's not a lot happening. We have fall sports ending. Everything's ending. Stuff is starting right at the beginning of break. But first semester is coming to an end this Friday at 12:58 p.m. Everyone is super excited, although we do have to face finals. Being a junior, it's not very exciting. We're taking CAS practice tests on top of finals and all that. Our math and English are taking their practice CAS test still. And also we had our second school site meeting. Winter sports, we have girls wrestling, boys basketball, competitive cheer. It's dance competition season. Stunt is coming up. What else? Girls water polo and girls basketball. All these teams are doing really well. Girls wrestling and boys wrestling are doing good in their season. Boys wrestling, well, of course, they're pretty good. As you see in the bottom left, Luke Kingman did place, I think, third in the competition tournament this weekend. Boys basketball are doing well. I don't know if you follow their Instagram page, but they do Tip Tuesday, and I think it's funny because it's like they chip the ball in the net, but apparently I'm the only one who didn't get that, but it's okay. They cheered for the Home Depot that opened really close to Vista this past Saturday. They cheered with our Little Hawks, and that was fun. Girls water polo is off to a great start. Once again, they will probably take the dub for being league champions for the 35th consecutive year in a row. Girls soccer is doing really well. They had a game yesterday at home. They won. Boys soccer is doing well. People still get injured. I think, one of their starting players, I think Luca, has a broken ankle still. This is like his third time he broke it in the past like 2 years. Girls basketball, they're doing well. They're actually off to play in a tournament in Arizona next Tuesday. They're all really excited. Hopefully they're going to bring home a win. Culture and climate, our football made it to CIF finals 2 Fridays ago. And unfortunately, they lost. But they are runner-ups for Division II. Pretty crazy thing happened that Friday. I go and I'm like, okay, I can get in still. No, we reached maximum capacity for our stadium. I think that's pretty cool. I mean, I didn't get in because I got there like 5 minutes late. Like 5 minutes and you can't get in. But it was fun. They unfortunately lost. It was really heartbreaking, but they still did really well. Our junior class went back and visited the prom location for this coming year. That's going to be super exciting when we announce it in, not May, spring, so like March. Our girls cross country made states, and along with our boys, they did phenomenal this season. I think a few were still competing. They were still training, and now they're training for track coming up. We had our winter rally last Monday along with the dress-up week. It was super exciting. I mean, we had these 2 people sing, like full-on sing and rap, and I don't know how they do it. I would have like lost my breath, but it was super entertaining. I'm gonna get a video on that next time. And then we also had our cultural fair, and in case you don't know what that is, it's basically like where clubs, it's put on by ASB, but it's where clubs can just go out during office hours, which was on last Thursday. So 30 minutes, and they can sell whatever they want to make money, and all the money goes to them instead of like going to Cane's and fundraising there where they would have to split the profit, which I think is very helpful, especially those who are planning for prom. We had signing day again last Tuesday for 4 football players that have committed. One of them is Bear Bachmeyer, who is heading to Stanford to play football with his brother. And then we had Dancing with the Nighthawks last Friday. I'm gonna get a video on that. I went, but my video is super bad quality. I'm not gonna put that on there. So I'm gonna get one from a few other people that take pictures and videos. Those dances were amazing. I don't know if you guys went, but it was like one of them did a backflip off like someone else. Like they trained that day for that, and I'm like, okay, but it was really impressive. And then we also had Operation Christmas Child come to an end last Tuesday as well. In case you didn't know what that is basically where you donate shoe boxes or you buy for kids with random ages, and you can fill it with hygiene products, little toys, or stuff they just want during the Christmas time. We had about 900 boxes complete. And unfortunately, some of them did not go out because people turned them in late, but it's okay. We still exceeded what Senate was expecting. And unfortunately, that is it. Thank you. You guys have a great winter break.
And next we have Caitlin Coleman from Murrieta Mesa High School.
Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to see you all. I hope you're having a wonderful day. So right here, I'm so proud of our football team, guys. We made CIF champions. We made it to Division 6, so we won, and then we got to go play at state. So we made it all the way to Bakersfield, and unfortunately we did lose, but we did amazing. I'm so proud of our football team. They've never done this before. This is a new record. They're going to do it again next year. They're going to do even better. So for activities, we don't have very much going on. It is final season. We're at the end of the year, but we had our winter showcase with our dance team. So our dance team got to come out and dance as well as our other dance classes at the high school. So it was all Christmas themed. We had a bunch of different partners going on. It was so fun. A lot of people had tremendous time. Our unified Christmas caroling, that was so fun. I had the privilege of getting to see that during my class, where all of our unified leadership teams and our unified leadership sports got to come sing Christmas carol. The entire crowd was singing. It was a lot of fun. We have our freshman Cocoa and Cram. That just happened last week, and that is with our link crew. So that's our upperclassmen leadership team. They get to come and help our freshmen study for their finals and prepare with hot cocoa. And it's really fun. Our teachers are there on staff to help. And then we had our Mario Kart tournament. That turned out great. I really wish that I could have done it because I found out you get a free t-shirt if you join. And who doesn't like Mario Kart plus Mesa stuff? It's amazing. Finals week. We have our dogs coming this week. They come tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. They're the best emotional support dogs. They're here for our students, and we're really just trying to remind our students to stay healthy. We know we have a lot of late nights coming up because finals are a pain in the butt. I started mine today. I had my A-push final. Oh my goodness, it was so hard. I'm so glad it's done with for the rest of the semester. It's horrible. So again, we have our football team. They made CIF Division 6. Our girls soccer team, they just played against Linfield Christian. Unfortunately, they lost, but it was a really close game. Our girls water polo, they just won against Heritage High School, which is a pretty good team, and I'm really proud of our girls. Our Mesa boys soccer team just won against Paloma. That was a really good game for them. It was pretty close. I'm pretty proud of them. Our boys basketball team has a game coming up against La Sierra, and then our Murrieta Mesa wrestling team, both our girls and boys, are currently going to play against Lake Elsinore this week, which I wish them luck because it is finals week, so that's stressful to have a tournament. For our Mesa Performing Arts, we had our winter choir concert. That was really good. It was like all Christmas themed. It turned out really pretty. And then we also had our band concert. The theme was like ugly Christmas sweaters, so we had our Beast leadership and a bunch of students show up for that. And everybody was wearing Christmas. It truly turned out amazing. For Mesa Culture, we have our Beast Staff of the Month, which was Mr. Ferris. He's a great teacher. Everybody really loves him. We had Share the Harvest, which is our wonderful Thanksgiving program. We fed over 1,100 families, or people, or families. We fed a lot of people. They're all really happy with that. And basically everybody got warm meals, and we had plenty extra that got to go to our Murrieta food pantry too. And then we had our Operation Christmas Child. That turned out great. We actually ran out of boxes to give out to students, so we had students turning in their own shoe boxes to give to children. And then on top of that, our students who turn in boxes get 2 hours of community service. So it's a great benefit for everybody. And then we just had our NomCon, which is our Leadership Nomination Convention. It's a really big thing amongst all 3 of our leadership classes, where they basically run for executive board positions. This year our theme was Disney, so all of our candidates, as you can see up there, they're running for different stuff, and they're all in different table groups. And then we also have our delegates, which are 2 senior head tables, and there's like probably 15 different tables, but it mixes everybody else up because you don't know who you're going to be with, but it's basically a giant potluck where you're listening to speeches. We come up with dances and chants. It's a really good team building experience for basically all of our grade levels throughout all of our leadership classes, even if we don't usually interact with each other. So that was amazing. And then on top of that, we also invite our regular school to come join. So they have meet the candidates at lunch, and they got to vote too, as well as our staff interviews them. So we will be finding out the winners of that soon. I'm really excited to see who our new executive board members are going to be. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right, thank you. Well, listening to all that, you can tell that all of our high schools are excellent schools with lots of activities for the kids to get involved with, and it sounds like you guys are having a good time. Do any of the board members have comments?
Great job on the presentation, guys. And the Operation Christmas Child, that's amazing. I actually had the opportunity to go to their warehouse, and you see the results of what everybody, those 900 boxes, we saw where those boxes went real time, live, loaded into big trucks, and then head out to where they were going. It was 900 boxes is amazing for a school. That's phenomenal. I think it's great. Great job. It's very exciting to hear all this fun stuff. You know, as a new board member, I'm sitting in the crowd. It's different hearing it here because you see the heart from a different perspective, I think. It's very cool. Great job.
I have a comment too. So I would just like to just give you guys a shout out for being brave enough to come up here in your presentation. You did a really great job. You don't seem nervous at all. Like, I wouldn't have been able to do that at your age, so kudos to you. And just lastly, being a former athlete myself, I would like to give a shout out to the Murrieta Valley girls volleyball team because they won CIF, right? So I want to give them a shout out. And then also the Murrieta Mesa boys football team won as well. My kids went to Murrieta Mesa, so I know that that's a big deal. So the sports thing, so go Rams. And I would also like to recognize, I didn't get the young lady's name, but the Vista Murrieta cross country athlete, and just give her recognition. Like, that's amazing. So thank you for sharing that with us, and thank all of you.
Any other comments? Last thing I was going to just tell you is the stress of a test is a big deal. And to get over stress is to get through it, right? You get through it, you accomplish it, you realize you're moving on, and good luck with that. So at this time, I would like to thank the high school student representatives for your reports. We understand that you have a busy schedule and other obligations, so please feel free to leave the meeting if you would like. All right. President remarks prior to public comments. I guess I didn't need to read that part. We are at C2, public comment. At this time, the governing board welcomes public comments. Individuals wishing to address the board are requested to complete a request to the address of a request to address the Board of Education card located at the entrance to the boardroom and submit it to the executive assistant to the superintendent and board. In accordance with board bylaw 9323, individual speakers shall be allowed up to 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board shall limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. The board shall take no action or discussion on any item not appearing on the posted agenda, except as authorized by law. We have 4 comments. And first up is Jolene Cochran, and followed by Kelly Parsons.
Hi.
Welcome.
Congratulations to you 3. Thank you. I'm Jolene. I'm a mom of 2 kids in the school district. I'm also alumni, and I have concerns about something very important: safety. I'm confused. Why is the one person most in charge of school safety, the superintendent, Ward Andrus, getting a raise when he keeps failing in the #1 issue parents have for their kids? Let me elaborate. Did any parent get notified about the 2 school shooting attempts, both in Vista High and at Warm Springs Middle School, both this year? Why was it a secret? I'm sorry, but there's no excuse, because at least notify us. Also, why is he getting a raise when he decided it wasn't pretty enough to add height to existing fencing around schools, even though Homeland Security told him it was not that expensive to do and to keep the kids safer from anyone trying to get in? But I'm sure giving him a raise to not care about our kids' safety was in the best interest of himself, right? Also, please have someone check on Dorothy Middle School regarding snakes. Not only has my child seen them, but other kids also have and almost stepped on one. That is, if Superintendent Ward Andrus actually wants to earn his raise, for once. Please start doing your job right. It's very hard to believe I actually have to spell this out for you, but then again, I have to constantly remind Nancy Young to act like an adult and stop rolling her eyes at concerned parents and citizens of Murrieta. Guess it's not that much of a shock. Do better.
Next, Ms. Kelly Parsons.
Good evening, board. I am always the Good News Club. I even put that on my little yellow paper. I wanted to come and tell you about a few things that are just making my heart soar. This last weekend, myself and a lot of other educators participated in the Project 99 virtual walk. I know, Mr. Perdue, MV is close to your heart, and so you probably know about our friend Diego, who is no longer with us, but his family started Project 99. It is a suicide awareness project that a lot of our MVUSD teachers have partnered with. We did a virtual walk this year because of the cost of having police. So we walked a very, very safe route, and we did a little 5K. I did not run because I'm not a runner. It was very cold, but we had a blast. But I really wanted to highlight Michelle McCarthy. She is the heart and soul of this alongside Diego's family. She worked with Murrieta Mesa, who helped decorate our medals, which actually serve as a Christmas ornament that is proudly hanging on my tree. Vista Murrieta painted the rocks for the U Rock Garden, so everyone can take a rock or give a rock to a friend, so kind of pass it on. The ATP, this year's shirts were made by our ATP students. They screen printed, and there's a beautiful video from ATP. If you haven't gotten a chance, please look at that. Those kiddos are so proud, and the shirts are beautiful. And then Murrieta Valley, Michelle worked with their engineering program, so many of our CTE pathways were involved. The logo for Project 99 is a hummingbird, and so the MV, if I'm remembering correctly, MV's engineering organized and like had them etched out. I'm not sure all the tools they used, but it was amazing. So Project 99 is in partnership with Murrieta educators, but also anybody in the community can come out. It's always every December, usually the second weekend. And if you can't participate in person, you can do it virtually. And I encourage everyone who's not feeling their best to either call 988 or reach out to a trusted adult if they're struggling with their mental health. That is so important for our students. I have 42 seconds left. I also want to highlight the amazing Monarch family. Mrs. Hensley is my son's case carrier. She is incredible. His RI score has gone up 169% just this semester. So we are kicking butt and taking names. Sorry for the language. And then they also have a program called Caught Excelling at High Levels. As a parent, I got an email from the principal and the vice principal when my kid gets a little ticket from their teacher and it gets sent to the administration, and the administration celebrates their kid with an email to parents. So I'm getting communication constantly, and Murrieta Valley is the best. Bye.
Thank you very much for that. And yes, Diego was a teammate of my son's. And we know very well about him, what a great football player he was and a great young man. So I appreciate the positive energy. Thank you. Next up, we have Bob Cal.
Merry Christmas to you all. I'd like to talk about an agenda item, so maybe you can comment back on it. It's E4, agenda E4. It's a district quality certification of interim report. You may not know, I mean, I just happened to look at it and I saw that it passed a positive certification, but it has, there are questions that I have on it, such as, and maybe you can answer them because it is an agenda item. Average daily attendance. It says no. Does that mean that there was no average daily attendance? I know there's a whole sentence here, but some of them are double negatives. Enrollment, did we meet the enrollment or not? It has said no. I'm not sure if that's a double negative in there or not as well, because it has a 2% in there. There's some other no's in here too. And I just wondered about it, that's all. Salary increases, the last page on is A5, additional fiscal indicators. Salary increases exceed COLA, and it says yes. So I just wondered what salaries, who, and why. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Pardue, let me just respond briefly. Mr. Cal, much of your questions will be answered during the presentation of E4, and following up afterwards, you can also meet with one of our staff members for specifics.
All right, next we have Joshua Hager. Is Joshua Hager here? All right, moving on. We have Sky DeBrouwer. Did I say that right?
Almost.
Close?
Close. It's a complicated name. DeBrouwer. Good evening, board, Dr. Andrus, staff. I did get notification on those school incidences, so I'm not sure why that was spoken on, but we did know about it. Congratulations, new board members. I am here tonight on behalf of a concerned member of this community who could not be here to address the proposed boundary changes and the far-reaching impacts they will have on our families, students, and schools. These changes could have been avoided if voters were given the opportunity to vote on the school bond measure that would have funded the district with $198 million without increasing taxes. The bond would have allowed the district to build a new school and expand others, which would have prevented boundary changes. Unfortunately, that chance was denied, and we must hold accountable those responsible for that decision. It is important to point out that Mr. Pardue is the only current board member who voted to not allow the bond to be placed on the ballot. Meanwhile, Mrs. Briggs and Mrs. Schmidt, who publicly spoke out against the bond, now sit on this board. The three of you share responsibility for the situation we are facing, and the community deserves answers. Let's be clear, this boundary shift will have real consequences for families. Parents will now have to pay out of pocket for bus transportation for each student, placing a financial burden on households already stretched thin. In addition, students will be abruptly separated from their current schools and classmates, causing emotional distress and disruption to their education. The proposed boundaries for Murrieta Mesa High School are particularly concerning. They appear to result in segregation from a demographic and diversity perspective. Was this studied or even considered when drawing these lines? Our schools should reflect the diverse fabric of our community, and these changes seem to move us backward. Additionally, requiring students to travel longer distances to attend school and rely on bus transportation increases the likelihood of tardiness. Late arrivals not only disrupt the classroom environment, but also mean students are missing out on valuable instructional minutes, time they can't get back. This process demands transparency, accountability, and careful study of the long-term impacts. The families and students in this district deserve better. I urge this board to reevaluate these boundary changes and consider the consequences they have on our community. Thank you. I am a mother of 5 with 4 in the district, all at Vista Murrieta High School. And it doesn't impact us, but I know it's going to impact a lot of families. And I do ask you and urge you to reevaluate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on, employee organization reports. Lisa Murray, President of Murrieta Educators Association.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate and welcome our new board members and to welcome back our returning trustees. Board members, as you begin or continue this journey, I wholeheartedly encourage you to attend all the athletic events, all the open houses and showcases, all the math and science nights, all the performing arts shows and concerts. We got a little taste of that with Shavela tonight. All the award ceremonies, all the academic competitions, and all the special events to which you receive special invitations that you can possibly manage. And don't just attend. Engage in conversation with the parents, students, and staff members who are in attendance with you. Talk to the teachers and the coaches who are dedicating so much of their time not only to teaching, but also to running leadership programs, clubs, and extracurricular activities, and to hosting special events in this district. Participate on all the parent advisory committees. Visit the school sites regularly. Talk to the administrators, talk to the teachers and the nurses, the psychologists and the SLPs. Talk to the instructional aides, the custodians, the secretaries, and the clerks. Talk to the lunch ladies. Make yourself visible, accessible, and most of all, approachable. Listen to and have civilized discussions with all groups of shareholders, including staff, with the ultimate goal of doing what is best for the students in Murrieta Valley Unified School District. Seek to understand what is actually happening in our schools and what is still needed to achieve an even higher level of excellence in MVUSD. Turn off all the political noise about what may or may not be happening in other districts and pay attention to what's happening right here in our very own, very special district. MEA is committed to walking alongside you on this journey. Remember that as school board members, you are not just representatives of the adults who voted for you. You are trustees of this school district and community role models. It is your responsibility to partner with MVUSD administrators and staff to ensure that each and every one of the more than 22,000 students in this district continues to receive the best, most well-rounded, most inclusive and supportive, most excellent educational experience possible. And to all the MEA members out there, you made it to winter break. Barely. Enjoy your well-deserved time off. Spend quality time with your family and friends. Take a true break from work and rest your body and mind. And for those of you who celebrate, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, and Happy New Year to everybody.
All right, thank you. And Freddie
Musquez,
President, California School Employees Association.
Freddie is not with us tonight, but he gave me a statement to read. So I'll read that for him. So on behalf of Freddie Musquez and CSCA, good evening, Dr. Anderson, Board of Education. As we near the holiday season, I would like to wish everyone a happy holiday. Now that the elections are completed, my hope is that we can come together and ensure that Murrieta Valley Unified School District students are given every opportunity to succeed and have the best education possible. Educational achievement and growth should be important to us all. Together, we can create a supportive and enriching environment for our students, staff, and community. Let's continue to work hand in hand to prioritize the well-being and educational development of our future leaders. Some things going on in the CSCA world. We are currently taking nominations for our executive board and could have some new faces starting in January. We are currently working on a survey to send out to our membership for upcoming negotiations. Again, wishing everyone a joyful holiday season and a successful year ahead. Thank you. Freddie Musquez.
Excellent. And next we have the superintendent report.
I'll be brief as the night is marching on here. We had a great first half of the year. Yes, the first half is almost all the way over, which is pretty remarkable. It goes by so quickly. We've witnessed many excellent learning experiences in both classrooms. At least I have personally. I have been to these places. In classrooms, I've seen it on the stages, on fields and courts where we see our young people really developing and flourishing. We're delighted to see our students finding success in their pursuit of education in many different ways. This next semester will go by especially fast for all of our 5th graders, 8th graders, and seniors, and some retirees. Thank you to our parent committee that is working anonymously with our consultant, Andrew Bishop from Woolpert. They've spent much time in both meetings and individually reviewing maps, neighborhoods, and the data given to them to develop a recommendation for this board to consider in the coming months. Thank you to all the parents and community members that have taken the surveys. This last Thursday, another communication was sent out to nearly 3,000 email addresses of parents and guardians regarding the current attendance boundary options that the committee is considering to recommend to the board. Copies of those options and a link to the current survey is found in our lobby right outside this room. The committee will also consider the committee will review the comments as part of their work in the first few weeks of January. That survey closes on January 12th. The committee will also consider the draft of an implementation plan, which is very important to many, many involved, that will go into effect, like when it will go into effect and when it affects which age group and cohorts of students. Furthermore, we'll provide a grandfathering process for a current families and transfer process as part of the recommendation to the board. When the board takes action on the boundaries, there will also be a recommendation for that implementation plan. Our intention is to act quickly while keeping current family attendance patterns in place and help new families and the oldest of children in young families begin those new schools over the next few coming years. President Pardue, this concludes my report.
All right, thank you very much. And now we move on to the board member reports. And first is Ms. Shoemaker.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's doing good. I have a short report today. So at Vista Murrieta, we had our canned food drive where we collected 4,950 cans. Broncos also put service into action honoring veterans and military service members through this year's school-wide learning project. All classrooms contributed in unique ways, laying the groundwork for more opportunities to serve. All students had the opportunity to learn from a panel of veterans and active duty members. To those who are serving or did serve, thank you for your service. And even though this report was short, I hope everyone has a happy holiday and happy New Year's.
All right, thank you very much. And next up is Miss Young.
Hello, everybody. Okay, so I volunteered at that Share the Harvest event that one of the students brought up earlier. It was at Murrieta Mesa High School the weekend before Thanksgiving. We did serve almost 1,000 people. There was an actual traditional Thanksgiving meal being served, and there was a lot of food. And we're also giving out packages for 2 people with all the supplies they needed to make a Thanksgiving dinner. We did run out of turkeys pretty fast because all that is dependent on donations, but there was plenty of food. The atmosphere was very positive, and a lot of students were helping. They were helping with every aspect of it. They were helping people carry supplies out to their cars, and yeah, it's a great event. Okay, I did spend 3 days at the CSBA convention with we didn't have our whole board there, most of us were there. I always learn a lot about that at that convention. There were 5,000 people there from all over California. It was a mixture of administrators and school board trustees. They do have general sessions every day. Those are about 2 hours long, and then they have all these different sessions you can choose from. So it really depends on where you are. Wednesday, for example, there was a whole session for new board trustees, very important. There's some things that you really need to get educated on right away, like the Brown Act, and there's other things too. There were also lots of networking opportunities. I had invitations every evening and managed to get together with people from all over the state. And it's good to be able to talk about what's going on in other areas, what works, what doesn't work. So I appreciated those opportunities. That's really the only time we can mix with people from all over the state. Everything else, we do have other trainings, but they're all local. I did go to the boundary meeting I went to the one at Thompson. It was more of a informal situation with the maps up of the different propositions. There were computers there where you could check your schools and what the changes would be. It is going to affect, I believe, virtually every school. I know for sure every single elementary school will be affected by this. Anyway, I wanted to hear what people were saying. I also went to the PTA meeting yesterday at Lisa J. Mail's. Again, just wanting to hear input from parents. Well, some of them are, if not all of them, are somewhat worried. I want to, and this is something that's not so much on people's radar, but I do want to acknowledge that this school district has been named a 2024 Educational Results Partnership Honor Roll District, with 12 of our schools being named honor roll schools. This award recognizes high performance, achievement gap closing schools across the nation. So Educational Results Partnership, it's a data science organization that recognizes schools with high performance in math and English. You can read up, it's something I don't think most people know what this is, but you can look up the awards at, I can give you the website, www.edresults.org. And I will bring up again that this school district is ranked in the top 2% in the United States. This is a very high-ranking school district. And one thing I'm hoping, we have had a slight reconfiguration of the board. I'm hoping this board will keep the focus on our 22,000 students, that we have a lot of diversity in this city. If you go into the schools, you'll see that diversity of ethnic backgrounds, diversity of religion, there's socioeconomic diversity. And I do think, and this hasn't been happening as much as it should over the last couple of years, that we should keep the focus squarely on students, programs that serve the students, student achievement, student well-being, and also career opportunities for our students. Murrieta does have great CTE programs, and they're spreading it down into the lower, like middle school even. They're being developed, more are being added all the time. Some of those programs, you can go straight into a high-paying job after high school. Of course, we have all of our ROTC programs and military options where you can learn skills that can work in the civilian world. And of course, we have a lot of students getting into very competitive universities because we do have strong academics here. And there's all kinds of other technical schools, which I can't bring up everything, but I really would like to see the focus on our students and not partisan politics. Okay, anyway, that's all I have to say.
All right, thank you very much. I think what we'll do is just go in order. That way, even you kind of know who's going to be speaking. So I'll go next. I attended the CSBA event, and there was also a Pacific Research Institute in which Ms. Schmidt was there, and so was Ms. Briggs. And they were discussing math scores and reading scores and the different programs and what was associated. They took the data all the way back to the 1980s, which I really appreciated because I have seen in my 30 years in education a significant decline in basic skills for our average students. And that's a real serious problem. And I know when we look at data, most of the time we look at like the last 5 years, last 10 years. So it's very, very interesting to see a breakdown of this and discussing different curriculums that have been out there and different things that are going on behind the scenes with regards to curriculum, different groups of researchers looking at this data. So it was a very interesting event, and they went on to present at CSBA as well. It was a real big opportunity for me, and I know I talked to Dr. Andrus about this, how important it is for us as a community and especially as a board to try to come together. I had a very negative experience onboarding as CSBA, and I really wanted a positive, bring the team together, get everyone to meet one another, and we tried really hard to do that. Unfortunately, it did not happen the way I had hoped it would happen, but that was our first attempt. That doesn't mean it's our last attempt. Another one that we did was we went to support Valerie Backus, who was at an Army presentation at CSBA, and of course, being an Army veteran, it was near and dear to my heart. And one of the things they came up with was this idea that we should encourage all students to take the ASVAB test, which is a big deal to me. And also, one of the reasons why I think the math scores are so concerning to me is because I've had personal experience as a teacher. I never knew that there would be students that would struggle to pass the ASVAB, and in their struggles were basic math. It wasn't the advanced math. And a lot of times when I talk to the students, I'm having a hard time believing that you're struggling to pass a test to qualify for jobs because the ASVAB is not exactly, most people can pass it. And then when I broke down the math and they asked for some tutoring, some help, I realized it was the basic math that they were having trouble with. And so that was very concerning and eye-opening to me. And so it's a big deal. And the presenters pointed out that of the 10, if we had 10 students taking the ASVAB, only 3 qualified. That was concerning. Now, that's not to say that's our district, right? That's across the state. Our district, we don't have that kind of data, but I don't know how many kids are actually taking the ASVAB either, right? So there's a lot there. The other issue that came up, of course, was PE standards. And I know we deal with the profile of a graduate. My real hope is that we pay attention, and I'm so excited about the whole Make America Healthy Again concept, because it matters. Our kids, and there's so many health concerns that people have across age groups. But it really does start with our kids and teaching them to be healthy and encouraging them to be healthy. And I think PE is a great place to start. We have some great PE teachers. We have some great opportunities there. And I think it's something that gets overlooked a lot. I already discussed math scores, which are a concern. I did attend both boundary meetings, one at Vista, one at Thompson. I stood in the parking lot for a while talking to every parent I could meet on the way in and on the way out, handed them my card. They have my number. They can talk to me directly. And anyone here who would like to talk to me directly, especially if you have concerns about boundaries, bonds, and what have you, ideally you stay and hear what the board has to say about it. But one of the things that's important is we as a board have not really looked at boundaries any differently than the community has. So the community there's a whole process to this. Additionally, what I think is unique is there is a separation, although a lot of people for political reasons want to tie them together. There's a difference between the boundary and the bond. The boundary was brought up when I first got on the board, way before there was any talk about a bond. And the issues are, there are middle schools and there are elementary schools that are not at capacity, they're well below. And that's a problem. And additionally, we have recently had new data that says our enrollment is dropping. And that was a surprise to everybody. It was something I brought up in the summer. I said there's a potential that it could drop, and then lo and behold, it did drop. So there's a lot of misinformation. I did appreciate the advice. We should pay attention to what is actually happening. At least Mrs. Murray, I appreciate that, because that is really important. So we got to pay attention to that data. The other one, speaking of actually happening, discipline issues. We need to protect the learning environment. With that, we need to make sure that the teacher is in charge of that classroom. We cannot allow state laws to get in the way of the safety of our teachers when they're trying to teach a lesson. It's very, very important. And unfortunately, that is getting in the way. And if we're not protecting the learning environment, we can expect to see lower scores. And I think it's especially true in junior high, because junior high is where you really start to set expectations for behaviors and prepare them to get to high school so that they can be successful when it really matters. So I think that's really, really important. Discipline is about self-control. It's controlling your emotions. It's controlling what you want to do, right? I want to do something that I really shouldn't do, which is maybe blurt out or talk to my friend across the way or throw this thing across the room or see what happens when I do something I shouldn't be doing. Without discipline for a student, for anybody, for that matter, there are serious consequences. There's serious consequences in relationships, for holding a job, potential run-ins with the law, legal problems. It's not a good thing. And so I think one of they talked about, it's a long time ago and I can't remember what it is. It's non-curricular instruction or something like that. Anyway, the things we're teaching students, like showing up on time, treating people with respect, treating adults with respect. As we go from period to period, each teacher really represents a different personality and a different style, and we have to learn to accept people for their differences. That includes a teacher. So you have a boss, might not be your favorite boss in the world, but you still have to treat them with respect. And I think it's very, very important that we learn how to do that. And it's a passion of mine. It's something that I've spoken to a number of times. And unfortunately, we've seen the consequence of not focusing on discipline when we see some of the things that we've seen recently with Murrieta Valley Unified School District students. And I know it's not isolated. It's a problem that can continue to get out of hand. I'm really looking forward to working with everybody on the team to make sure that this is a #1 priority for the safety of our students and our faculty. And with that, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, great conference for CSBA. That was my very first conference. It was amazing. Ms. Young had mentioned there was 5,000 people in there. When we walked into that space, it was like it was almost overwhelming in the sense that the amount of people, they had like a 20-foot by 30-foot LED wall. I mean, everything that visually could attract you to it. But the coolest part about it was the fact that there were other board members there that you talk to them and their districts are pretty similar. Everybody's facing the same issues in one sense. And you had a chance to just kind of dialogue about it. So that I really, really appreciated. And I so appreciated Valerie Backus. I told her there when I got there, her and her CTE team, I was able to attend a parent advisory a few months ago about the CTE. And this has been super exciting to see. And then to see her present as a panelist for this thing, I was so proud. I'm like, wow, she's from our school district. She's right up there with like these commander-in-chiefs and these, these people. I thought that is so impressive. And she dubbed herself a recovering elitist, which I thought was pretty awesome because it gives kids the the opportunity that if they're not geared for college bound, which I am not, I did not graduate from college. So if you're not college bound, there is still a space in the world for you. And I think during that CTE panel, I think what they're endeavoring to express and what Dr. Andres with his Heart for the CTE program and Jen Shiver and Valerie's whole team is really that the high skill, high paying jobs, they're really pivoting to that. And I'm encouraging any parents, if you're listening, if y'all are listening to this video, post this meeting, you guys have got to come to these parent advisory meetings specifically regarding the CTE for your kids' sake, because this is going to explain to kids who are not college bound that yes, there's a place in the world for you and you can find it through one of these pathways that the school is providing. So I thought that was phenomenal. She did just a bang up job and it was amazing. And then kudos to our Murrieta PD and our district staff. We have found out about an incident that occurred this past week and we can't discuss it, obviously not because there's a whole bunch of other stuff and I'm still learning all the legalities, so I won't say much except for thank you to the PD, our SROs, and the district staff who were involved in helping to take care and kind of take care of that situation, and they handled it quickly. And from what we understand, from what I understand from the people I've talked to, that, you know, this is not just an isolated incident, but I think we're in the right direction to bring light and awareness to it. And the safety of our students is our #1 priority. Above everything else, you know, is the #1 priority. So I'm just very grateful for our law enforcement partners, and I'm just thankful for the district staff. I don't even know. I have no idea which district staff it was, but I know that, let me tell you, the heart to get it done so quickly, what they did, and I'm sure Dr. Andres got all the 5,000 phone calls about this whole situation, and he handled it amazing, and we got results pretty quick. We got information back that it was being handled, and I was just really impressed with that. It was amazing. And the last thing I want to just do real quick is, you know, I reached out to my colleagues prior to this meeting, all of them, and I have extended this, that I want a unified board. I want unified board to represent Murrieta Valley Unified. So as a community, I'm asking the same thing. I'm asking that we unify. I was telling Ms. Munoz that, you know, she and I had chatted, and 20%, 80-20, the 80-20 rule. We are not going to agree 100% of the time as a board or even as a community. What I am asking from this board and the community is that the things that we do agree on, that we will fight and fight to keep it for the kids, to keep the kids forefront, is that we will focus on the things that we do agree on, set aside, and we just agree to disagree. So I'm hopeful, I'm really hopeful, I'm excited. I want to say thank you to everybody who participated in the election process leading up to this event, to where we're sitting here today. And I am encouraged that there is hope for bringing unity back to Murrieta's community. And I'm very grateful for the teachers, the staff, and everybody. And I know that if we recognize that we are all in it for the same purpose, that we have the goal of making sure our kids are first and foremost our stakeholders, and that we focus on that, I think it'll be good. So I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Okay, so mine's going to be a little different because this is my first one. But first of all, I would just like to thank God for providing this opportunity for me to be serving on this board. Next, I would like to thank all of the people who supported me, encouraged me, walked for me, and prayed for me during this election cycle, as this was something new that I've never done. So I just appreciate all the support. And I just hope to any students that are watching, or anyone, that this could be an example to any of you that are watching, that you can do anything you set your mind to. This was not on my radar necessarily, but God put it on my heart, and when He tells you to do something, you do it, even if you don't feel comfortable. So I would just like to say that to students or anyone else watching this. I am also wanted to give a shout out to my parents who are in Wyoming watching this right now, and my kids, and all of my friends and family that were not able to attend this swearing-in ceremony. So thank you so much. And I am honored to be elected to serve on this board and represent our Murrieta community. And as far as our report of what we've done so far, on December 4th, I attended the PRI California School Board Member Conference with some of my fellow board members. And like Nick said, it was very eye-opening. Being a teacher myself and seeing this information presented, it was very eye-opening. Like, even that I've been a teacher for so long, I did not realize the problem behind why our math scores are so low everywhere. And this was a really eye-opening conference. Also, oh, and I wanted to say there that at that PRI conference, most of the people in the room were new board members, just like myself and Eleanor. So I thought that was really surprising. There are a lot of people who have never served before and they were elected to the board. Also on December 11th, I went to the boundary meeting with all of my colleagues here. I went to the one at Thompson Middle School, and I was able to talk to some parents and community members. And I am looking forward to visiting the school sites in January. And I just want to tell everybody, have a Merry Christmas.
I wanted to start off by just thanking all of the educators and staff for this first semester. I see it firsthand in my own home, you know, the amount of time and work that goes into making this school district a great place to be for our students. And so like when you said, you know, you earned it or you finally got here, however you phrased it, and sometimes it's kicking and screaming, not just with the students, but even with yourselves, you know. So I just can't say enough thanks and gratitude for everything that all of the team members that make up the district put in every single day, 7 days a week, 365. Because the reality is, I know that even though we go on break, your work doesn't actually stop. You might get to do it in PJs, but it doesn't stop. And so thank you for your year-round commitment. I also attended the CSBA conference, and it was really educational and a lot of really great information. It was kicked off with a keynote speaker by the name of Dr. Lori Santos from Yale University, who talked about the science of happiness. And this really resonated with me, the notion of joyfulness and the importance that that plays in any workplace. And this is a workplace. She went through sort of like the 10 takeaways, and a lot of it had to do with like self-care, psychological safety, and what have you. Very interesting. She has a podcast called The Happiness Lab that you can access if anybody's interested. But maybe that's something that you can look at if you have some downtime over the break. Focus on well-being is a pathway to success. And a lot of the sessions that I attended sort of resonated that similar theme. And it dawns on me, and I said it in my comments earlier, that the leadership shadow that we cast as a governing body sets the tone for the district and the workplace about what's acceptable behavior, what our expectations of each other are in this workplace. And that the governing body of this district really isn't just the 5 people sitting up here that you elected into office, but in the session called Civility in Challenging Times, they were very clear to say that the stakeholders that make up the governing team are all of the certified, classified staff, the unions, the community, the police, and then lastly, the trustees. And so I just think that's important to resonate, is that we have to act together in concert and recognize that the governance of this district extends beyond the dais. And another session that I attended, Navigating the New Political Landscape, they shared an alarming statistic that many of you may have actually seen because I saw it reported outside on the news, that in the 2023-2024 school year, $3.2 billion across the United States was wasted on conflict. That 20% that Ms. Briggs mentioned, where most of us will never see eye to eye. Imagine what we could do about math scores. Imagine what we could do to advance CTE pathways had, as a nation, we not wasted $3.2 billion on culture wars. So I am actually really optimistic maybe a little bit Pollyannish. I don't know. We'll find out. As I mentioned, I had really good conversations with Miss Young, Mr. Pardue, and Mrs. Briggs. And I walked away from those conversations with an understanding that we were all here because we were focused on the best interest of the district and the community. And I really hope that that actually comes into fruition, because I certainly do not want to waste your time, my time, or the taxpayers' dollars on another billion of waste in political and divisive issues. We could do better. One of the other sessions that I attended had a lot of great suggestions about governance, things that I hope that we'll be able to entertain. I talked to Nick Pardue about establishing some governing norms and suggested that we participate in a board retreat. I hope that we actually do that so that we can all figure out how to advance the missions of the district together. Also attended a CIF session, for those of you that don't know, big basketball family. And so that was a lot of interesting information there, and also a little bit alarming. California, the state of California 2 years ago, was the second worst state in the country with regard to health and safety opportunities that had been identified. Now, over the last 2 years, remarkable strides have been made in the area of health and safety from a CIF perspective, so it's good that we're on a positive trajectory. But it was something that was alarming, and here, uniquely in California, you deal with air quality issues, and there's judgment calls that have to be made because of our fire situation and heat in certain parts of the state. So by no means is it an easy undertaking. So good to see that that alarming statistic got the attention of the right people and that there's plans in place. Also talked about the need for athletic trainers and whether or not that should be a requirement. I was really pleasantly proud of the district in that session. They asked, can anybody raise their hand if their parents behave during athletic events? And myself and only one other district representative raised their hand. For those of you who don't know, I attend almost every sporting event, like I'm always there. And I can say with certainty that it is a very rare occasion. I can only think of one in the last 5 years where there has been parent bad behavior. And so I was actually proud because, it was a room full of about 100 people and most of them could not raise their hand. So our community is capable of behaving. Our community is capable of being civil when we are aligned on a common theme, like our sports teams. There's so many other things that we can get aligned on, that 80% that Eleanor speaks of. We can do a lot of really good work together if we put our attention in the right areas. Also, some other cool things coming from CIF, some grant funding opportunities for admission into sports. Not everybody can afford the $100 ASB card, and so that there's some opportunities for kids that might need some assistance. There's also some student representative scholarship opportunities that are coming available for juniors, which I think would be a cool opportunity if someone in our school district was selected for that. So some exciting things there. But at the end of the day, my main takeaways from CSBA was, as a board, we need to be very thoughtful about our leadership shadow and recognize that the board, although we're not employees, we are an extension of the workplace, and we hold a significant responsibility to cast and model a leadership shadow that we can be proud of in front of each other and in front of the students. I also attended the redistricting meetings at both Vista and Thompson. Both of them were very well attended by the community, so kudos to everybody that took the time to attend. A lot of good questions, a lot of good dialogue, a lot of common themes of concern. The common themes that I heard were related to distance, breaking up of friend groups. You make your friend group in, elementary school. You'd love for that to continue all the way through. I know my son, Aiden, has had the same best friend that he met in pre-K all the way through, and he's now a sophomore in college. And so that resonated with me when I heard that feedback. Also, the time that people will spend transporting, commuting from one location to the other, the impact that it will have on traffic, which is already really bad in certain parts of Murrieta. So something that we really do need to explore. Another common theme that I heard was the expense related to busing. I know myself, as a parent with kids in the district, have had to pay $300 per kid per semester for busing. And I can't imagine, I heard somebody had 5 kids, who can afford that? And not everybody qualifies for assistance. So I feel like we need to be really transparent about the financial implications of it. I heard that loud and clear from parents. I heard about concerns, again, because of the commuting for extracurricular activities. So not just, is my kid gonna get to school on time, but if practice isn't over until 8:30, 9 o'clock, how are they gonna get home? What does that look like? What impact does that have on the family unit? So all really good questions. I'm thankful for the district for giving the community the opportunity to come and learn and express their concerns. I'm grateful for the community for such an amazing turnout in both of the locations. Now we owe them a response. So look forward to serving in this capacity. I, again, look forward to hoping that this board advances causes that are in furtherance of the mission of student learning and achievement, and that we do it with respect, grace, and empathy.
All right, thank you very much. I think one of the things, last comment really is just how happy I am as a social studies teacher to see democracy in action. And we have a fabulous board, all kinds of diversities of opinion, and I think we're gonna represent Murrieta very well. So I'm looking forward to working with all of you in the future. All right, moving on to section D, consent calendar. Consent calendar items are voted on collectively as a group. Upon board member request, items may be removed from the consent calendar for discussion and individual action. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar items D1 through D6 as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I hear none. So we'll move. Oh, student preferential vote.
Yes.
All right, motion carries 5-0. Section E. I turned that off. Section E, action information items. Approval of personnel report. Called for a motion.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. Oh, this is
There's
not
no preferential vote for a
this.
personal item per student.
Got it. Motion carries 5-0. E2, information. Change of dates for Vista Murrieta High School and Murrieta Mesa High School fireworks shows. Do I have a, do
Oh,
we need
this
to
is
vote
just an
this?
informational item for the board to know the dates were changed. We had approved fireworks events, but due to a wind event, they had to be postponed. Now they're being rescheduled.
Santa Ana's.
Got it. E3, first reading of proposed revision to administrative regulation AR 3311.1, Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Procedures. Do board members have any comments or questions? Hearing none. Item E4, approval of the first interim report and filing a positive certification for fiscal year 2024-25. I call on Mr. James Whittington.
While Mr. Whittington comes up to the podium and the presentation gets prepared, I just want to share with the community and to our school board, as we approach and as he shares the presentation, we have been in a very strong fiscal position for quite some time. That's done because we have been very conservative in how we spend resources and funds. There's been lots of one-time dollars that have come to the district over time. We've worked closely with our labor partners to be very wise about how we're spending those resources. And we've counted on a pretty stable enrollment, both neighborhood students and, of course, transfer students. We've talked a lot about transfer students. This year, we experienced a significant dip in enrollment beyond what we were anticipating, and that's going to cause us to pause in different places about how our budget rolls forward. And you're going to see some of that reflected in the presentation today about what happens to our reserve if we were to continue on this path. But again, we still have a significant reserve, which will carry us through. However, we do not want to just, well, let's put it this way. Hope is not a strategy that's going to get us anywhere. So we've already taken some significant steps this year to bring that spending in line with enrollment. A good example is starting last summer when we had an opening for a principal position, one of our staff members took on that role of position and so vacated the Learn at Home principal position, and we reconfigured that so it didn't require another administrator. We also had 2 teachers on assignments who are supporting administrative roles at our very large schools. They became full-time administrators, like taking an opening, and we didn't replace them. So we've already started to make some of those structural adjustments to respond to what we foresee coming. And this presentation will reflect a little more of that. We're not going to dive into all of the details because we're still working through what we'll be able to do with our budget going forward, but it will impact many parts of the district in the coming few years. So James will dive into that for us.
Yeah, any questions? No.
Well, you need to see his presentation.
So I apologize in advance. I get very excited about the budget and sharing the budget with you guys. So welcome new board members. I would like to invite you, as I'm going through, if I say anything or you start using acronyms or words that you don't understand, please feel free to pause at any time and ask me a question. Before I go into the presentation itself, I will, like Dr. Andrews said, I will be going over some brief highlights of the budget and some of the major changes from adopted budget to now the first interim budget. But first, I want to acknowledge that one of the attachments in the agenda that was referenced is our budget book that we put together for each reporting period. That's going to live down there. And so there's a large packet, lots of detail, more detail than I think you could ever want in a budget, but we prepare one of these for every single reporting period. It answers a lot of the questions that come up as we go through the budget process. The page that was referenced earlier tonight is the summary page. There's a summary page that talks about our certification, some high-level details. The specific details for each one of those categories, the met, not met, yes, no, is all detailed out in our standards and criteria review. So in the state of California, we have fiscal oversight from the county superintendent of schools, and they've developed this large framework on indicators that may be trends to be aware of. And so those trends are all highlighted in that standards and criteria. We have to go through it every single reporting period. And there's some metrics that the county office looks at when they're reviewing our budget. So that's all detailed in there. For example, or I should mention though, all of those metrics are snapshots in time. So this reporting period is a snapshot in time, just like those standards and criteria are a snapshot in time. And so things like the COLA being less than the raise, the increase in compensation this year, it's a snapshot in time. There were years previous where the opposite was true. And so it's important to look at our budget when you look tonight to see it over the scope of period of years. And so our multi-year projections always presented, so we present the current year with 2 budget years in that data. And so before I jump into the presentation, I just want to take 1 second to acknowledge our Director of Fiscal Services, Samantha Tumayan, who just is sitting back there. She is the one that really coordinates this work, and it's a collaborative effort with all our divisions, all our departments, all of our school sites, and it's a very robust process to put this packet together, and there's a lot of work that happens behind this, the spreadsheets and the details that go in to create this. So I appreciate her putting the time and effort into that work, and I appreciate all of my partners in the district office that make this possible. So jumping into the first interim budget review tonight, I want to spend some time first going over the budget timeline in California. And in California, we're constantly chasing budget revisions as we go through and manage the district's finances. It really kicks off from a fiscal year perspective with the governor's May revise, which kind of hops in halfway through the process. But the governor's May revise is the last data point we have in May before the district adopts its budget in June. So we prepare the LCAP and the budget in June, and then we're adopting that budget. The board is adopting that budget. And typically that's happening before the state has adopted their budget. So the state has till June 30th to adopt their budget. Otherwise, state legislators don't get paid, so they typically adopt it on time. But even though they adopt it on time, they don't give us all the details to implement that budget until August, September, and through trailer bill language that's enacted later. And so we're always kind of chasing the details to make sure we're updating the budget based on the legislation that impacts us. And so we have that enacted state budget that comes out. If there are significant changes from what we prepared at adopted budget in May and June to the actual enacted budget, we'll do a 45-day revise, and that happens in August or September. And then in September, we also prepare the prior years, the previous fiscal year's unaudited actuals. Those have to be board approved by September 15th. And then in the late fall, we usually get the Legislative Analyst Office forecast on the budget. So and I'll go into that tonight. They give us some details on trends in the state and national economy and how that will impact the state of California's budget, which ultimately then affects us as a school district. After that, we prepare our first interim budget, and then we really pause and kick off the budget development process for the future fiscal years when the governor's January budget proposal comes out. And so in early January, the governor will set the tone of his budget proposal for the upcoming fiscal year. And then we'll incorporate any of those changes that impact the multi-years when we adopt our second interim budget, and that will come to you guys in March. And then the cycle repeats itself with, after March, we go to the governor's May revise, then we work on a budget and so forth. So before we jump into the district's budget, it's important to point out some things from the LAO's forecast. So the LAO has done an independent assessment of the state of California's budget. And in 24-25, at this moment, revenues are running ahead of the broader economy. There is softness in the state's labor market, and consumer spending has been more than offset by earnings of high-income individuals, which has surged in the last few months. So we have consumer spending, which is lagging, just like the labor market, which is lagging. That's all been offset by some high-income Californians. Outside of government and healthcare, the state has added no jobs in the last 18 months. So outside of local government work, in the healthcare industry, we've stayed flat or actually declined in the number of jobs. The number of unemployed Californians is 25% higher than the strong labor markets we had in 2019 and 2022. Consumer spending has continued to decline throughout 2024, so that's always an indicator of where the broader economy is going. However, in California, we have high-income Californians that have a lot of their revenue driven by, or their personal income driven by, the stock market. And so we've seen stock market growth in the last few months. That's driven revenue for those typically high-income individuals, those high-income workers. Most notably, in the first 6 months of 2024, the stock pay alone at 4 major companies accounted for 10% of the state's total income tax withholding for that period. So just 4 individual companies. So you can think of who those large 4 companies are. I'm sure we can all come up with a few. So those higher revenues are offsetting higher costs for the state of California currently, but a lot of it's hinging on those high income individuals that have their income driven by those stock market gains. Due to the higher estimated capital gains, most of the increase, especially for the Prop 98 side of the budget, which drives funding for school districts, will be deposited in the state's reserve account, which is a good thing because the state had depleted most of the reserve account in years past. So we don't really anticipate the state, although revenues are ahead of the broader economy, providing any additional funding in the current year for schools. According to the LAO, the 25-26 budget year is roughly balanced. I'm not sure how technical a term roughly balanced is, but they will update that again in the spring. That roughly balanced, so it does indicate there's no capacity at the state level for new commitments. The one caveat to that is while the state's commitment cap will be limited by revenue, inside Prop 98, there is some growth that will happen due to COLA, so we'll get some additional funds due to COLA. And then there will be an additional, they estimate right now, $2.8 billion in new commitments that will be available on a one-time basis or ongoing basis because of one-time commitments from last year that have fallen off. And so that makes room, the new Prop 98 floor will go up, they'll fund COLA, and there'll still be room left for the state of California to do new things for K-12 education. What that means, how that comes to us, is it one time, is it ongoing, is it targeted to specific school districts or certain demographic types, we don't know yet, so that'll be something we find out in January, hopefully. Question.
So based on the COLA,
for that. Is that something that then do you factor that into the main budget or the general fund? Or is it something you say, hey, we have this percentage, we're gonna, if it comes in, we allocate it to this? Or is it spoken for before it gets here? I mean, kind of.
So the COLA will funds all of our programs. So our LCFF revenue goes up, and that funds the vast majority of our programs. So we don't set it aside for specific things, but we do have new ongoing commitments every single year. We have step and column increases. We have just normal cost increases, electricities, utilities, all those things that continue to go up.
But it's variable, right?
Yes, exactly. So that's on the state side. So shifting over to the district's budget, we have some significant snapshot data points for this period. We've updated the revenue projection or the financial projections from adopted budget. So the last time this governing board saw the projections was in June. And so now we've updated through October 31st. And then the one extra data point we have is our preliminary CalPADS enrollment, and it will be certified next month. And then we have our updated attendance projections, which affects our multi-year projection. So on attendance projections, as Dr. Andrews indicated, we've seen a decline in the current year that was greater than anticipated. And so we built new projections in this first interim report that are based on analysis of our capture rate, the amount of attendance that's actually being generated on those kids as they come to school. So we have enrollment, and then we have the number of days that kids actually come to school within that enrollment, and that actual days of attendance is what drives our funding. And so we need to factor in both our enrollment and how that changes and our attendance rates and how those change. In California, we have one of 3 scenarios that indicates how we're going to be funded. And so we're either funded on the prior year average daily attendance, the current year average daily attendance, or a new one that came during COVID, which is the average of prior 3 years average daily attendance, an average of an average, which makes the calculation fun. And so although P2 ADA, which on the next slide is not displayed, is expected to grow, our funded ADA will decline because of the change in the mechanism. So in 24-25, we'll be funded off the prior 3 years ADA. In 25-26, we'll still be living off that average prior 3 years. We'll just move forward a year. And then in 26-27, those other 2 methodologies will be smaller than current year ADA, so we will then be funded off of current year ADA. You get the largest of the 3. In 25-26 specifically, the difference between current year ADA and the average of the prior year 3 years ADA is about 100 ADA. And so that means an increase in enrollment that exceeds 100 above our current projections will provide additional revenue. But if we increase by 80, we won't see any new dollars because we'll still be funded on that locked-in mechanism. So this is our change in enrollment and funded ADA. You can see the yellow line at the bottom there is our funded ADA as a first interim. The orange line, the solid orange line, is our enrollment projection as a first interim. And then we have 2 dotted lines. The blue dotted line is our adopted budget enrollment that we had projected at that time back in June. And our dotted gray line is our funded ADA we had projected in June when we prepared the adopted budget. So you can see there's some significant changes there. It starts with 21-22, so we have actuals for 21-22, 22-23, and 23-24, and then 24-25 turns into current year, which is we know those numbers now, and then we have 2 years of projections displayed there. So you can see there's been a significant decline in our projections and what we think will materialize at this point.
I'm not great with reading that, but from what I understand, what you're telling me is that because of the way things are calculated, our enrollments declined, our funding could decline, but because of the way they calculate it, it might not decline right away.
It will decline, but it's kind of smoothed out over time. The one caveat is we declined this year, which affects immediately next year and the year after because that 3-year average that happens. So as those higher years where we're funded, you can see our enrollment and our funded ADA line is much higher, 21-22. As those become not in the 3-year window, it starts to affect us in those years.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So our next steps with enrollment and what the impacts are on the budget before I go through the budget itself is to identify multi-year positional cost savings. In 25-26, we're going to pause our contribution to Fund 14. We make a contribution of 1% of the general fund to fund deferred maintenance projects. We have some ending fund balance in that fund that we'll tap into if we need to complete those projects next year. We'll continue to work to match district staffing to our enrollment. It's work we've been doing for the past few years. Develop our plan and really refine our plan to communicate to the community regarding TK and K options, the eligible age ranges. As TK is rolled out, the age ranges have been changing over time, and so now we'll be at full age eligibility next year, and so it's something important that the community knows what that eligibility is. Work to align enrollment processes for families, those that are seeking wraparound services, extended day programs for our TK, K care, and also our families that participate in our SEED program, our after school program. And then of course we need to closely monitor our new multifamily developments as they build out and start leasing those, because we have projection information. This community hasn't typically had a large apartment complex of student generating units. And so as we have that, it's important to see what that does. And looking at the affordability of the apartments, it'll be just important to closely monitor what happens and who is actually generated from those units as they actually lease out, because we don't have good data on what they will do, especially as so many have opened up at the same time. So 2 points I want to make before I get into the actual numbers for this year. 2 big concepts. A structural deficit is when our ongoing expenditures outpace our ongoing revenues. And so that's where we really need to align our unrestricted budget, especially to make sure we're matching our revenues to our spending. And then we have some strategic spending. And so on the restricted side of the budget, many times we'll get grants or entitlements that come to us all in one lump sum, and then we spend it over time. So we recognize the revenue all in one lump, and then we have to spend it down over time. So we will have times where our expenditures exceed our revenues, but that's because we're spending down those grant balances. So there's times where it makes sense to have that strategic spending, and there's times where it makes sense to have the structural deficit, but they're both important to monitor, and there is a difference between the two. Some of it is planned, and some of it's as unplanned. Of course, as we go through this process, we have one-time savings in our ending fund balance, which extends our runway, but doesn't necessarily solve the structural deficit problem. So if we generate a one-time savings, that gives us more time and puts more money into our savings account, so to speak, but it doesn't fix the problem of having a structural deficit where we have the ongoing problem of revenues and spending not matching. So in the current year, we have, on the next few slides, the general fund broken out unrestricted. The next slide will be restricted, and then we'll have a combination of the total general fund. We have on the right-hand side the major categories, the reporting categories for revenues, followed by expenditures, contributions out, the increase, decrease in ending fund balance, and then our beginning fund balance and ending fund balance. And then the columns represent our adopted budget. So the last time the board approved our financial projections was the adopted budget column. We have a changes column so you can see the differences. And then we have our first interim in that peach color, which is the budget that's being presented tonight. So you can see we have some declines in revenue. The biggest one is our LCFF revenue declines. Although our overall LCFF revenue did not decline because of the decline in enrollment, our decline in TK immediately is affected by the LCFF TK ratio add-on. So the state gives us some extra dollars to make sure we're meeting compliance with the 12-to-1 TK ratio. And so that declines immediately in the current year when TK numbers are materially different than our projections. On the expenditure side, we have an increase in utility costs, primarily electricity. We negotiate some electricity rates, but we've seen them go up over the last few years in some pretty significant ways. There's a reduction in expenditures due to our workers' comp rate change. Over the summer, as we saw TK enrollment not materializing, we had held off on hiring some TK teaching positions and some aid positions. So we're able to not fill those positions. So we recognize that savings in this budget, which was a good cost savings, holding back on those ads until we saw the enrollment materializing. There's some carryover activity. So as we close out the year at adopted budget, we anticipate spending everything that's granted to us, and that typically doesn't happen. So we have some adjustments as we pull those balances into the new year. And then we have some staffing savings due to vacancies and the related statutory costs. And so this would be vacancies due to not filling a position or any unpaid types of absence. Shifting over to the restricted side of the budget, the same format is presented here on the right-hand side of the slide with the adopted budget, our changes in our first interim in the peach. The big changes on the restricted side of the budget include an increase in Title I on the federal side. We had an increase in lottery funding in our Golden State Pathways program, a big, large $1.3 million increase, primarily due to that GSPP program. And then an increase due to redevelopment funds. So as we've seen those revenues materialize, we increased our budget on the revenue side. On the spending side, we have some shifts. Prop 28, as we develop Prop 28 plans, and we're newly into this development of these Prop 28 plans, we budget for them in one category, and then we're shifting them between categories and adjusting them to where we actually think sites will spend those dollars. So there's some decreases and changes there. There's some shifts between expenditure categories as the budgets are developed. We sometimes will put expenditures into a placeholder in like other operating services, and then as we identify whether it's going to be a person or a capital outlay or some other type of expenditure, we'll shift that between categories. So that's happening there too. And then the biggest item on the budget, of course, is again some savings due to vacancies and that rate reduction for workers' comp. So it impacts both the unrestricted and restricted side of the budget in tandem. So overall, our combined general fund adopted budget is the first column, changes again, and the first interim budget that's being presented tonight is that peach column. Some notable items you can see are increase or decrease in ending fund balance or decrease in ending fund balance this year is just under $25 million. That is down from the projection we had at adopted budget, but still significant deficit spending. Which at the end of this year, we're projecting to be just at over $105 million in ending fund balance. The one thing I'll guarantee is that these numbers will change, and so when I bring them back at second interim, they will be different. I can guarantee that, but we take a conservative approach to building the budget, and so we try to be as conservative as possible. So hopefully those numbers continue to get better and better as we go through the process. Summarizing our multi-year projections, so now shifting from the single year focus and going to the current year plus the 2 out years. A similar type format, but a condensed version for a multi-year projection. So you can see we have the unrestricted category, restricted category, and then the combined category at the bottom. And then we have a column for each year, starting with 24, 25, the current year that we're in, and then the 2 out years, our projection going out. And so you could see we do have deficit spending projected in all 3 years, but we do maintain an ending fund balance to support that at this point. So it would be appropriate for us to start making adjustments and matching some of those things I mentioned earlier as we move forward to make sure we can continue to meet our ending fund balance and reserves. The state requires us to keep a 3% reserve, and so you can see in all 3 years we are projecting to meet that. This is the detail of our ending fund balance. And so that top line is our required reserve the state makes us have. And then we have some restricted funds that we project an ending fund balance for, and some other categories that are really available for other purposes. You can see our ending fund balance does go down over time, again, because of that deficit spending, and so it's time to start making some corrections and changing course to match the district's revenue to our spending. So future considerations and next steps, the governor will propose a framework for the 25-26 state budget in January, so we anxiously await that. As always, I like to give a couple look-fors. One thing that's important to us as a school district in California are the protection of investments to date. In the 24-25 budget process, schools and education in general were protected from most of the cuts. They happen on the non-Prop 98 side of the budget. So the state does have some work to do to shore up the non-Prop 98 side of the budget. So we want to see that protection of the Prop 98 side of the budget, the work we do, and see those non-education side of the budget, what solutions are going to propose without impacting education. That framework that comes to us in January, and then we'll have some additional economic projection and additional data. Will drive how we develop the second interim budget. So we'll bring that to you guys on March 13th of 2025, which is right around the corner. We will also have additional data on our spending to date, so that will be updated through January 31st. That will be presented to you on that night. Of course, we continue to monitor student enrollment changes and the other impacts that may happen through potential redistricting. And then, of course, any future legislative changes, both at the state level, what happens here locally in California, and at the national level, what happens at the federal level with some of the things we've already heard previewed for the future years. So tonight, the board is being asked to file a positive certification and approve the first interim. Just a quick clarification on the certifications. The AB 1200 process, the oversight process in California, allows us to have 3 different certifications. There's a positive certification, which it says the district will meet its financial obligations for the current year and 2 fiscal years, or projects that it'll be able to meet those obligations. There's a qualified certification that we can give to the county office, and that's that we may not meet our financial obligations in one of those out years. And then there's a negative certification that we'll have fiscal struggles in the current year. And so we're not at that point yet for a negative or qualified certification, and that's why we're proposing a positive certification tonight for the board to adopt. And I'll answer any other questions that may have come up. I apologize. It's like drinking from a fire hose on your first night.
Happen, and just bear with me for informational purposes, what happens on a negative certification to the district? Is there a consequence, or is there a?
Yeah, typically the county office will insert itself, and so they'll assign fiscal advisors, fiscal experts to help rectifying. The process is very thorough with the county. The county is always involved, so every single reporting period we're submitting this information to the county office. They're reviewing it, they're looking at it, they're assessing what, they're kind of independently evaluating are the assumptions we made in our projections, and then they give us feedback through a letter. They'll either approve our certification or assign us a different certification if they disagree. So if we go that negative route, there's usually tons of county involvement from the county superintendent and his staff.
Like intervention.
Correct, it's fiscal intervention. Okay. And so there's a whole slew of things they can do depending on the severity of the issue that can happen.
Districts on occasion will go to negative certifications and they don't make corrections. And then at some point in time, an organization called FCMAT, the Fiscal Crisis
Management Assistance Team.
Management,
yes.
they will come in and take over a school district. And trustees are not allowed to vote on anything. The superintendent gets fired. You get an administrator who then runs the district for a period of time until it gets back on its feet again the right way. So it is important for us to, like we mentioned, monitor what we have. We have a reserve, like as our savings account, for us to manage this unexpected, greater than we anticipated dip in enrollment, but we've got to correct course so that we maintain, you can see it slowly stepping down, right, on those ending fund balances. And so we need to be in a place where that levels off and we can then get back to kind of a more, with a greater sense of confidence and where we're at, of where we need, of the budget and maintaining the priority, the programs and the staffing in the school district. So that's why we're alerting the board to this now, and we've mentioned some things that we're doing already to make those corrections as well. We started actually last summer. We started making some of those adjustments.
I'd say one positive, if you remember the recession years where pink slips were handed out and it was very tough times, the state had cut revenue. And so there are districts in California of all different sizes. There are districts that are the size we're headed to, and so with balanced budgets. And so we can get there, it's just the time and the work it does to balance those programs and spending.
Is my understanding correct, though, that the projected deficit spending isn't being solely offset by reserves, but by puts and takes from the restricted and unrestricted budget?
So that could happen. There's things we can shift over to the restricted side of the budget that would offset some of that. That's one of the strategies we could implement. As of now, if that is happening, if we've shifted something to the restricted side of the budget, it would already be included in the projections. That would already be calculated out in our budget.
We voted on a golden handshake. Am I wrong?
No.
Was that what was that?
So I apologize. So to clarify, we did vote on an early tell. So an early tell incentive, a small 2% payment, if I'm correct, for any employees that notify us by January 31st of their intent to resign by the end of this current year. So it's a small one-time payment. A golden handshake is typically a multi-year payment. So we did I wouldn't qualify it as a SERP. A SERP usually has long-term implications. This is a small one-time payment to more of an early notification so that we can make the appropriate staffing adjustments or not fill those positions if they're no longer needed.
Yeah. Think of it as like a golden high five, not a handshake.
The silver.
So it's like, tell us if you're going to go so we can plan accordingly. Yeah. There is a financial, both cost and incentive on all the things for that. But SERP is like if we do continue for whatever reason, for whatever those reasons are, that we can't see those yet, continue in a very negative decline in enrollment, we would be going through something like that, where we would go through a process to evaluate how many staff do we need to right size the district and do what's called a SERP, and that's an acronym for surplus.
Supplemental Employee Retirement Program.
Yeah. So that incentivizes employees to retire, because it's a supplement we pay into. But there's a lot of calculation that you have to have a certain number of people participate in order for it to pay off over a certain amount of time to pencil out for the school district. But it is something that we are paying attention to.
Well,
Yeah, that decline in enrollment, it's concerning. It brings to mind this couple that I met at Thompson that they expressed to me that they had specifically purchased their home because they wanted their kids to go to a specific school. And now it didn't look like that was going to happen in 2 out of the 3 proposed options. And I know myself, when I moved to the Murrieta area in 2017, that was a principal consideration for me, is where were my kids going to go to school? We actually had fallen in love with the home in Menifee, but we chose our home because of the schools. And so I'd be remiss in not sharing that, like, if we're concerned about declination in enrollment, that this is a factor that the redistricting will certainly impact. It will not only impact enrollment, but it will impact property values for people within the community already. And something that we need to be very cognizant of as we study this and move forward.
Yeah, I've been approached by people as well that said they bought into a certain neighborhood because they wanted to send their kids to those schools, and now looks like that's going to get blown up somewhat.
I don't think, these things are integrated, the concept of that, but be mindful that the board will also see an implementation plan. And the recommendation coming from staff is that existing families will have the ability to stay in their current pattern while new families make those adjustments. And so we do want to take into account that consideration because we recognize that it is important. The reputation of the district, as was mentioned, we received yet unsolicited recognition by other agencies. People move here for the schools. Once again, niche.com, rate us, et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on, right? Lots of great work by our community and our parents and our staff, that hard work. And so all of those things come together, both how we as a governance team operate, the reputation we facilitate, the decisions around redistricting and its implementation, as well as smart decisions around program features and what we do as staff around some of these strategic and targeted moves.
And I want to reiterate something too. I know we had a conversation about this because of the school redistricting and all the talk about the bonds, and this is why we did it. And the enrollments are really critical because if we don't have the students, we don't need the staff. And that is really important. And we represent the community that this district serves. So all the concerns that we've had over the last 2 years are a contributing factor as well. I don't want you to dismiss the culture wars. People are concerned about social norms. It's important for us to govern as a board, united to protect the jobs for our employees and to show that we are concerned about everyone in the district. And I think it's really important for all community members to be aware of that, because as long as there's a perception out in the community with any percentage of students, it doesn't really matter. That decline has an impact on us directly. And I think that's being highlighted here tonight. So thank you for your presentation.
Yeah, I just echo that, just to piggyback on that. One of the sessions that I was in at CSBA, one of the panelists was from a school district in Northern California that had just come on the other side of a significant reduction in workforce and the impact that that had on the community. And that was one of the learnings that I had in this process or journey to come to the board, was the realization that the school district is the #1 employer in the city of Murrieta. And so the stabilization of the district isn't just about the experience of the students and the staff, but an unstable school district has the possibility of destabilizing our entire community. And so I heard that panelist from Northern California talk about the impact that that reduction in workforce had on their whole community, not just the district. And we certainly don't want to get there. So again, it comes back to the manner and method by which we make decisions with a wide view and not a narrow one.
Well said.
There is an action item in here, I believe.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you.
I call for a motion to approve the first interim report and filing a positive certification for fiscal year 2024-25.
So moved.
Seconded.
I hear a motion and a second, and now all in favor?
Aye.
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 Great job, James. Thank you.
Excellent. And so that's a 5-0 vote. Moving on, E5. Approval to award a contract to MPG Inc. for district-wide asphalt paving, seal, coating, and repairs. I call for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none. Vote? All in favor, sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, hearing none, as 5-0, motion carries. E6, approval of deductive change orders for contract C0000857, 869, and 871 for Murrieta Elementary new classroom building project. Call for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 5-0. E7, review of Associated Student Body financial reports for the quarter ending September 30, 2024. The board has received this information, apparently. Is there no action to be taken for this?
No, this is just reporting out of what the ASB accounts balances are, and it's attached to the agenda.
All right. E8, review of investment report for the quarter ending September 30, 2024. The board has received this information as well. And item F, adjourn Board of Education meeting. The Board of Education meeting will be temporarily adjourned at 7:32 p.m. to conduct business as the Educational Facilities Corporation. Educational Facilities Corporation meeting, Nancy Young.
Am I
Yeah,
doing that
you
one?
are the vice president of this of the Educational Facilities Corporation meeting.
Okay. Well, find it. Okay. I hereby call the Educational Facilities Corporation meeting to order at 7:32 p.m. So G2, election of officers of the Murrieta School District Educational Facilities Corporation for the 2025 calendar year. I will ask for president, vice president, and secretary nominations separately. Do I have a nomination for president of the Murrieta School District Educational Facilities Corporation?
I nominate Nancy Young.
I second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
So repeat that for vice president.
I call for a motion to elect, it says president here, but, okay, typo. I call for a motion to elect, oh, never mind. I'm on the wrong page. Okay. Do I have a nomination for vice president of the Murrieta School District Educational Facilities Corporation?
I nominate Yvonne Munoz.
Second.
Okay. So, all in favor?
Aye.
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 5-0. Okay, student preferential vote? Oh, she's gone.
left.
Okay, we will skip that. So do I have a nomination for secretary of the Murrieta School District Educational Facilities Corporation?
I nominate Christine Schmidt.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Okay. I hereby adjourn the meeting, the Murrieta School District's Educational Facilities Corporate Meeting at 7:35 p.m.
All right, do I have are we moving on?
You're on to I.
I'm on I. There's a lot. I hereby reconvene the Board of Education annual organizational meeting at 7:35 p.m. Public comment regarding closed session items. Do we have any public comments regarding item K1?
No.
I call for a motion to adjourn to closed session at 7:35 p.m. for item K1 listed on the agenda. Do we need a motion?
Yes.
I second, or I call for the motion.
I called for that.
But you're going to make the motion.
I make the motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Can we get
Sorry. I apologize.
a second?
Somebody, second.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing, nays. Hearing none. Motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned. I hereby reconvene the Board of Education meeting in open session at 7:58 p.m. Upon the motion of Trustee Briggs, seconded by Trustee Schmidt, and a vote of 5-0, the board took action in closed session pursuant to Government Code Sections 54957 to release classified employee 276747 effective December 17th, 2024. I think it's just a motion right here. I call for a motion. I move to adjourn the Board of Education meeting at 8:58 p.m. Can I get a second?
Second.
Can we get a vote? What is it? 7:58, my bad, at 7:58 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Vote.